And again, hello again, everyone. I'm saying hello again because I actually started this um, flowing, if you will, a few minutes ago, but I apparently neglected to press a go live button somewhere that I should have. But I'm set up now. It looks like I am, so to speak, live, but I am live. Even when I'm not here, I'm live, and even when I'm not here, I'm still live. That's something that I'll put it this way. I still live. Okay. So when I'm not here in the studio, etc., I'm not here interacting in this kind of manner. Yes, I still live. And part of my story and part of my purpose in being here and in relating at least what I've learned to you is when we leave this place we think of as earth, we think of this place of our present existence, etc. When we leave it, we still live, we still are, we still experience, and the experience that we have is in it has the same quality on when we leave as it has now. What you perceive of as living right now and what we're accustomed to thinking is actually not living. When we think of the form as being so to speak dead, and in many ways by way of extrapolation we think of ourselves as not living. Now the fact is there are many people who have forms today who are not living, and they are as dead as they'll ever be. So these are things that I want to say because part of my purpose in doing this is inviting you to live today, to live now, to love now, to expand that love, starting with yourself. Now, that's not hard to do because the spigot is within you, and it's your mind and it's your thoughts and your beliefs, it's your permissions as well as the things that you don't permit for yourself, first of all, or it's also the things that you judge others by. When you take a look askance at someone else and hmm 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 yeah, we need to stop that, we need to stop that, you're looking in the mirror and not knowing it. You're not knowing you're seeing a part of you. You're seeing an aspect of you. And perhaps you're right, it needs to stop. But pointing at that mirror is not going to get it done. You need to do one of these things. And when you do that, when you're realizing you're really talking about an aspect of yourself, are you going to take the same judgmental, punishing, punitive attitude? Now, you want to know what has this got to do with anything? It's got to do with where we are uh, historically, it's where we are in this particular time and space, and it's where we go from here. Okay. And where we go from here is up to you and to me. It's up to you for you. It's up to me for me. And you can only go where you have allowed yourself to place yourself right in the middle of, and hopefully joyfully. I can't imagine people placing themselves in the middle of conflicted areas where war and disease and indebtedness and homelessness and all these other conditions. I don't necessarily see people consciously wanting to be in those places, but I do see people unconsciously creating those situations for themselves, partly because they don't really appreciate the power that is within themselves. And so, one of the things that I'm doing right now and will be doing is inviting people to join me in an exercise where we begin to build and create a new way of accepting, receiving value assets, essentially creating those assets. You know, if I raised my hand here and I was holding an ear of corn, I used corn yesterday. Let's use corn as my um, produce of choice. Okay. So imagine there's an ear of corn here in my hand, and frankly, that's not hard to do. I can suggest you imagine it. No resistance to it. Excuse me. You can see an ear of corn, and the point basically is this: that ear of corn. Let's consider that as what is its potential to create or recreate itself. With if you follow a few steps, you do a few things and you put some ingredients in, including some, I'll say, activated, some vibrant water. You put it on there, that water is going to get some things started. It's going to make some things happen. And actually, the ability for that corn to, you take these kernels off, you put them in the ground, you put that water on, and you do that for a period of time, you're going to see in a little bit of time something's going to start growing out of it. And it's a lot of somethings, and each one of those somethings is the complete whole of that ear. It's not just the ear, it's the stalks, it's everything else. All of that potential comes out of just that ear of corn, and it comes out, and every one of those kernels can do the exact same thing. So I'm inviting you to join me in an exercise that will create a store of value for everyone who does the same steps that we do, because everything is an act of consciousness, it's an act of will, and it's also an act of willingness. Will and willingness are not the same thing. Some people are willing to do things, but they won't do it. So that means the lack of the will. Some people want to do it, or even they say they will do it, but they lack the willingness to actually mold themselves in an optimal form. And I say themselves, their minds. It's not your body. It's your mind, it's your thoughts, it's your heart, it's your imagination, it's your vision, it's your intention. It's also your confidence in yourself, it's your faith in others as well as yourself, it's your joy. All of these things, when you add those to the mix of your moments, you actually create some better quality. You start creating some memorable moments because your mind, your heart, your consciousness has expanded to include not only the fullness and wholeness of yourself, but all that you touch and who are willing to be touched by you. Okay. And I say touch, I'm talking, I can't physically touch you, but if we're connecting right now, I'm touching you. Okay. If you feel more optimistic, if you feel more confident, if you feel like, oh, this is something that actually makes sense now that didn't make sense before, and you choose to adopt or to embrace that idea and make it part of your own, you have been touched, so to speak, but you've actually opened up more of yourself because you've expanded the possibilities. When we raise our spirits, when we raise our thoughts, we expand the possibilities. This is what freedom is, and most people don't know that. People have this whole idea and they all got all this energy about freedom and don't know what it is, because we call what we're experiencing freedom when in fact it is full of, and I'll say rife with limitations. It's rife with in, impermissibilities. Okay. I don't know if that word works, but it was off the tip of my tongue and I decided to reel it in. We need to and we can permit new experiences to occur. We do not require some expert from afar who is attempting to make some edicts for our life. They don't know us. They don't care about us. They don't. They just don't. And you know something? Because there is an interconnectedness to everything. They're not knowing about us or caring about us actually means that they don't know themselves and they don't care about themselves. Now, are they going to listen to me saying that to them or about them? Probably not. And it doesn't really matter. It's more important that I know myself. And I'm also, you can say, I've got enough humility to realize I don't know it all. But I can be and I am the steward of my own life. If I'm not following my own best advice based on the knowledge that I have actually sought and embodied within my own consciousness, then uh, pity me. Okay, I make myself vulnerable to others, and I'm not saying that's bad. It is the way life is. So one thing that I want to do, I will do, is I will have in these little discourses, I will talk about such things. For example, I came up with this really nice. I don't script this stuff. I mean, it's nice to be really prepared and stuff like that. And in my mind, I can feel the flow and stuff like that. But to take the time to do graphics and other kind of stuff like that, open your heart. My heart is open. I'm saying what's there from mind and heart together. And if your mind and heart are open, you'll grok what I'm saying and you'll feel it and you'll do what you do. So, but this just before I started, I had this title. And that kind of informed me as to where I want to go with this. And the title basically is this: exercising your whole I-ness. Your whole I-ness. And if you roll that, you roll that, and you roll that, you'll get your holiness. Your whole I-ness is your holiness. We are whole beings. We are, you could say, we are I-ness as well. When you say I, you are an individuated unit of consciousness. You are an individuated unit of life. And if I pull this over a little bit more, maybe I even sound a little bit more present. So, holiness and whole I-ness. Whole I-ness to me is a better way of understanding, appreciating, and comprehending the nature of who and what we are. We are whole. And when I say we are a whole, I'm talking about I'm an aspect of you, you are an aspect of me. We are all aspects of creation, of God, of by whatever name. There's not a big someone else and little us. There's just simply us. There's the one. And in and we function in this particular realm, I'll say, in such a way as it appears as though we are individuated beings. We are isolated and discrete and separated from each other. The concept of aloneness is there because we appear to have a singular experience, a singular sequential experience of time and space that's full of beginnings and endings and stuff like that, existence and non-existence apparently. And that's just the appearance of things. Ultimately, we are not the first of all, we're not the body. And that is one of the things that I frankly I'm not gonna talk about what I haven't done anymore. I will talk about what I'm doing right now. I received a book, and I say received because it just was part of my daily routine some years ago, because this was 1997, was at that time. And I would sit down each morning and light a candle. I would give some affirmations and I would clear my mind for what would come through it. And in those affirmations were some very clear instructions of not only an intention, but a resolution, a resolve that I would only accept the highest and the best that will come through, whatever that is, because the highest and best is, in terms of consciousness, extends beyond what I know. Okay, when you want to do that, you can't improve anything unless you have the capacity to perceive what is needed, or in fact you got the capacity to evaluate the quality of what you got now. Now everyone's got the capacity to evaluate the quality of their present experience, and I'm talking about on a personal level as well as a collective level. We know when and where things could be better. Now the question is, are we of a resolve to actually make it happen. And as it related to my process each morning, well, it's my, you can say it's my channel, it's my mind, it's my efforts and everything else. Yes, I can set the standard, I can set the tone, I set the rules. And this is where you do the same thing. Everyone does in terms of having the ability to. Very few people actually do it. And what's my, I'll say, example? What's my evidence that very few people do it? You show me someone who is not talking about their fear, people who are not talking about the past, with some rueful thoughts and things about that, or who is not talking about a future with some dread and anxiety, then there is stuff that's already in their information field that's influencing that information that they haven't rooted out. They're putting it in the present tense. And so to put something like that in the present tense, and even though it's about something in the past or something irrelevant to right here and now, then those factors are present, and therefore they are limiting one's ability to perceive something better. You have to be able to perceive something better in order to imagine it happening for you. You have to want to. A lot of people desire things, but don't have the confidence to actually give their thoughts and their energies to it and their actions to it. And I'm saying I'm one of them too. Here's my little book. I was talking about I received. Oh gosh, I didn't say what happened. When I was doing all that, I made all of that, those preparations. This voice comes through because again, my mind was clear, was open and etc. Well, it's open with that, with those stipulations. Okay. They talk about judge not or you won't be judged. It's not that you don't judge. Everyone is making decisions. I mean, I had to do a whole bunch of judging to decide to put all this my effort into now finally sitting down here and talking about things. And quite frankly, what I'm saying is pretty interesting, even to me. Whether anyone else sees any value of it at all, it's something that needs to come out. It's, in my opinion, but it's also telling me, since I'm feeling that this is what I have to say, which is actually unique. We all have a unique perspective. We don't always value that perspective because what? It's been ours. We're used to it. It's like ho hum to me. There's things that I have known for years that is old news to me, and yet people would benefit. It would do something that would help them see themselves better and perhaps make choices in their life that they were not really confident enough to do before. So if I can do that, well, okay, I'm doing it. And if it has that effect, great. But it's not for me to be concerned about that. That's the whole thing. If no one watches this, it's not it's not a problem at all. It's not a problem for me. My ego, or at least that part of me, a part of me wants a bunch of people to see this, but that's not the point. The point is that it's here. Its point is that I come out and I allow myself to be a channel for what is there to be said, to be communicated in the same way that what I did on that day in 1997 became this because of more work that was done that I did, for example, as well as my illustrator, to turn this into a book. And it's called I Am My Body Not. And because it came to me in the way that it did, I had no idea what where it was going. I just kept typing. I just kept typing. I'm receiving a word and then two words, then I'm receiving sentences. And all I did was sit there and type it out. I took dictation. And it became this little book. Now, what I'm doing here, this is just some background on me and my process because I've got videos to do about the book because I have carried, uh, I've got about 20 cartons of these books still in my possession after 23 years. I published this book in the year 2000. And because it's an evergreen book, it'll always be here and available, but it has, I feel, a lesson that is topical for all times. It was topical then, it is certainly topical now. And we'll talk about that, and I will have a QR code up at some point. I hadn't planned on talking about that, but I'll put a QR code up too where this book can be purchased with the author's signature. So I'll not just a signature. I'll make a little note on it. I think having a signed copy of this book while the author is still, like I say, sucking air, I think is a good thing. We tend to start valuing people after they've left, and that means we've ignored their value while they were here. That's a pattern that has not worked to humanity's benefit. It simply has not. It has contributed to the thinking behind that habit is what has actually contributed to the way things are right now. We have a lot of delayed effect, delayed benefit, where you do something and the universe is giving back to you what you give to it. It always does. There's only one way the universe works, and it works perfectly. We believe in errors, and all the errors we believe in typically are someone else's, even God's. Oh, God made an error here, made an error, and this human's going to evaluate this, and they're going to fix the problem. Now, humans do fix the problems, but they're fixing problems that humans in erroneous thinking have created. It's not because so we're actually getting out of the way, not so much of of trying to fix something that was inherently broken. No, we've established some beliefs, some practices, etc., that basically break things. They destroy and break things. They create imbalances, and those are the problems. And those are our actions. They're not on God per se. On the other hand, they are our actions because they are on God. It's us, the God within us, the God that we are expressing as. And it's not as someone who has domain or dominion over anyone else, first of all, but it's one thing is become people and ones who know themselves and know their connection to the source as well as their connection to everyone else, because everyone else is a connection too, unless we think otherwise. And that would be an error in thinking. So how do why do we make, or how do I make some sense of all this? Especially when we're talking about Onescious Wealth Movement, it's because our present practices are such to create the situation that we have. And I'm not, and I'm saying collective we, but I'm also talking about personal I. We have practices, cultural, which have been passed on generation to generation, etc. And oftentimes, when we're talking about fixing things, we're trying to fix it from the outside. We're trying to apply something from the outside, not realizing that the real fix comes from within. I will give you an example, and I'll use this in here. That fellow may or may not ever watch this video, and it's okay if he does or doesn't. It's all right. However, I was in a Zoom call yesterday. There are a whole bunch of people who are getting together, and they have these initiatives. They're doing ceremonies. They're doing all kinds of things to bring for peace, for healing, all types of things. And and so I was sitting in on this particular call, and I was invited to make a contribution in terms of ideas or thoughts, and I did. I talked about humility, and but one of these calls, this guy was saying, "Well, this is what I want. I People talk about the masculine and the feminine, and I want some women to tell me specifically." He used the word specifically. He used a specific word specifically several times. So I got the idea that this is the way he wanted to see this thing happen. He wanted some women specifically to tell him as a man what to do. What does he need to do? Okay, as talking about the divine feminine. You got the masculine, you got the feminine, but how is that supposed to work? I want a woman to specifically tell me that. Did I get that point across enough? And so I didn't speak. I was out of speaking and out of turn as far as this meeting. This meeting was actually winding down, but within me was all of this stuff that I wanted to say. And I said, so I'm going to say it here. And I'm not saying it as a, yeah, because he wants some women to say it. He wasn't going to hear this from a guy. He wanted to hear this from a woman to tell him, a guy, what did they want. Now realize that the interactions would be that whoever spoke up as a quote unquote woman who was going to try to tell him as a quote unquote guy, in that interaction, he's only going to get, quite frankly, what he's compatible with hearing. Okay, but the the gist of all this, this is part of the issue. He sees himself as a male, as 100% masculine. Okay, and then he's looking for someone who inhabits a female body, who is expressing as a female, and therefore is 100% female, to tell him what he ought to be doing. I mean, first of all, he's not knowing himself for one thing, and the issue has to do with knowing oneself. If you know yourself, you attract to you that which you are. First of all, and the second thing is, what is it that you need to do? You are not 100% masculine to someone's 100% feminine. What you need to do is exercise and bring forth the feminine that is within you, the feminine aspect of yourself. We are a whole, WHOLE. I talked about the whole-I-ness. We are a wholeness, is what we are. And that wholeness includes a masculine and feminine energetic elements and components, each with a certain charge density to it. So, in order to really bring our charge up, it involves an optimal balance of both of those things. Most of the time, men are basically attempting to act like men, so to speak, which basically puts them in a more exaggerated expression of their maleness, so to speak. And that maleness is more so positive, protonated energy. Okay. And it is also, that's the energy of formation. It is the movement of organization of creations. We are creative beings, but the creation actually happens, and it happens in an optimal manner when there is a sufficient supply of the feminine aspect as well. You need both. You need it both in proper proportion and degree in order to create the things that you want. That's how you can get a whole bunch, and you can have women who are predominantly masculine energy. You can have men that are predominantly feminine energy, and it has nothing to do with sexual orientation or preferences. Nothing whatsoever. But it does have everything to do with manifestation ability. See, these things people aren't talking about, they aren't thinking about. And yet, this is part of the underbelly of the creation process that we are all part of, and we're all doing, whether we are aware of it or not. So, if we're experiencing a whole bunch of crap, we always have the ability to blame someone else. Okay? You have that ability. That's called free will. Will it be true? No. But will it be, you can say, projection? Will it be attribution? You're attributing your powers as a creator, a creative being, to someone else or something else. It doesn't even have to be or someone. It could be an object. It can be a story that someone has told you. Sometime in the 1930s, and I'm looking up here, War of the Worlds, and that was Orson Welles, I think it is. It was. So somewhere in the 1930s, there was a broadcast, 1938. It was a radio drama and it was reading, I guess, of maybe it was H.G. Wells' book, but it was War of the Worlds, and it was put on as though it was the real deal. That there was actually an invasion in place, and people panicked, and they did all kinds of things, in response to what was essentially could be called a psyop, a psychological operation, because they were messing with people's heads, and they wanted to see what kind of reaction would occur. A lot of people took that seriously, and they went off the deep end. Now that was 1938. 1929, they had there was the crash of Wall Street, which tripped off what was called the Great Depression. Now, when I grew up and when I came on this particular scene, which was 1951, the Great Depression was still fresh on the mind of a lot of people who were still sucking air. All right. And so you would hear just how bad it was, and this, that, if people were killing themselves and all kind of things because what their money was gone, etc. And their value, they didn't know what they were going to do, etc. That to me was just as much a psyop as the War of the Worlds, and it had an effect. Why and how? Because of how people perceived their life would be, because of the disruption in their way, in their familiar ways of thinking and also doing, and also in the absence of having some other way of thinking and behaving to create some effects that would actually buffer them from, I'll say, being inconvenienced by those things. If you don't have a fear of something, typically it's because you have an answer to it that mitigates the fear. Typically, fear comes up when a person doesn't, in their own way of thinking and their own worldview, you don't have anything to deal with it. This is why they keep creating these new things to be afraid of, and then they tell you a story around it. I mean, pe- there were pictures of buckyballs with spikes on them a long time before something that happened a couple of years ago, as was called a pandemic. And if you know certain things about your cells and how they work, if you know certain things about hydration and other things, first of all, what they're saying is not based in fact. Biological fact does not support what's being said, even if an expert is telling you. Most of the time, the people that were telling you were simply reading from teleprompters, or they were reading something someone told them. Vast majority of the time, that's what's happening. But they put that story out, they put that story out, they put it out, they put it out, they put it out, and then, well, okay. Not to mention they actually cut off other alternative ways of interpretation, not to mention that. And a lot of people in our present educational milieu don't realize that ethics is a thing, that truth is a thing, it's a factor. Well, some people know it's a factor enough to uh, take steps to do something to alternative interpretations, so that people get less access to those and more access to the popular. And it's not that the narrative is popular, the narrative has been funded. It's really the only difference. It's not about popularity. No one wants to be sick. No one wants a new thing to be concerned about medically. And if they knew themselves well enough and how their physiology works, but also how their spirituality works, they wouldn't be concerned. So it's not universal whatsoever. And if you know, you can benefit from the knowledge. Your effort to be gaining that knowledge yourself gives you freedom from the fear of the problem that they bring up. Okay? It doesn't matter what the problem is. They talk about global warming, same type of situation. It's a red herring. Okay, you're not supposed to have, it's supposed to be like a sacred cow of concepts that you can't even have another way of looking at it. And the point is, the climate is always changing. The climate is always moving, but climate is moving in accordance to some other factors that they are not talking about. We are a collective. We are a whole. Whole. And guess what? We are connected to all life, and all life is responsive and responsive to each other. And our states of consciousness affect everything. A lot of people would think that, well, hell, we don't have any effect on the climate. Well, excuse me, we do. We have behaviors that we do that not only to ourselves, but to each other. We do things that actually degrade the quality of life. We degrade the productivity of our soils. We degrade I'm going to say, the vitality of our waters. We pay a price for all of those actions. And most people, even when they hear of ways to change those things, unless it's come from someone who they've already been accustomed to listening to, and of course, that person that they're accustomed to listening to wants them to continue to listen to them so that that person can have a continued stream of income. Don't matter whether it's true or not. So the point is, we have this, I call it not so merry-go-round, that we're doing, that we're living, that we're experiencing, that we're creating. And so, in order to change it, we need to open our minds, open our hearts to something else, to some other ideas, and then think them through, and then act them through into fruition. So that's what this series is about. Uh, on the one hand, and then also in the practical. I think as I continue to do this, and one of the benefits of this, of me doing this exercise now, is one, I can talk about things that are of interest to you. It's part of the reasons why I'm doing this, but I am also going to what I'm looking to do right now is to go to, here we go, entire screen. And I'm going to take you to a website where we can play this out. I'm going to do this. So, let me do this. Here we go. This is the co-op inc.co site. And this is a site that is intended, not this intended, this is a platform where we can exercise the principles of cooperation. We can also exercise the stances of consciousness, the awareness and knowledge of our whole I-ness, for example, our holiness. There are certain things you can do without that awareness of your whole I-ness, because that's pretty much how we do things now in our society. And that's like very much why we have what we have. Things are the way they are. People have a lack of sufficient, I call it sufficiency, a lack of income sufficiency, a lack of income or asset availability. Income sufficiency relates to how much is coming in, how much in value assets come into you, based on our habits of thinking and actions, and then what comes. It comes generally in lump sums. Comes this day, comes that day, etc. And it comes in an amount that we've negotiated, or someone has negotiated down as far down as they could get and still get you. And so this is the norm, has been the norm. And so this is what, in fact, we're going to talk about changing. What I'm going to do for a moment, though, is I'm going to literally take a short break. It's going to be about. So, one thing I realized, well, I've known for quite some time, I have not had the visuals that I want. And I have been spending a good amount of time attempting to teach myself or learn how to do the visuals that I have in mind. And, but the first thing is I needed to establish the habit of doing what I'm doing right now. So the thing about this, and we will go back to the co-op um, site for one thing, and I'm going to tell you about how this works. Tomorrow, and I again today is day 10, and I've got five essentially more days, 6 more days. So tomorrow, 5 days because Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 6 more days. The 22nd will be. I'll conclude this series. Now, it's not that I'll conclude this activity. I'll probably go to several times a week, but I'm going to take it a day. I'm going to stay in the present, and right now I'm going to do it day in each day. For the holidays, we're going to be traveling. In fact, starting Saturday, and we won't be back home here until Christmas Day. So I will be taking. I think I'll be taking off those days, but I may not. I may actually do something just to keep the habit going. So, but what we're going to do is that we're going to get to a place where I can also visually, but I'm going to explain this process and how this system works. Bringing the screen up again, and now you can see the QR code there on the um, right side of the screen. And if you scan that, it will take you to this very page. Now, why am I talking about this? Because most people are talking about making money, and and when people are talking about making money, or when they're thinking about or listening to someone who is talking about making money or new ways and stuff like that, they are also using all of the baggage that they've ever associated with the process. And much of that baggage includes times of really not um, not happy times. Okay, now so we can accept that, and so therefore most people are more comfortable with the idea of finding a product or service or something like that to sell, and then so the product or service is perceived to be the value and have the value, and then they make do with what's left. And so, and then they are subject to others wanting that product or service, et cetera, et cetera. And you also are dealing with the need, an ongoing need, and I'll use that word specifically, to continue finding others, to continue recruiting others, to continue prospecting. Fi- it doesn't stop. Because why? You want that flow to continue. Now, there are ways to do this outside of that, and I agree. But however, there's another part of this. Let's say you have succeeded at doing all this. Do you maintain your own stash, so to speak? Okay, so you get these funds, they're coming in. Do they really come to you? Or do they go to, or eventually, if they do come to you in some kind of way, or are directed to you, what happens? They are directed, or you direct them from one platform into another, from which the platform keeps it. The the platform is the custodian, so to speak, of that value. All right, and but you got a whole bunch of small print, a lot of paragraphs relative to your involvement with that particular platform and the conditions or conditionalities that are associated with you getting your own assets under certain uh, uh, conditions, okay, or stipulations. It's all there, and we tend to click on the buttons to get on to what we want to do, and then really did not read it, and actually didn't want to read it, because if there was something there that we really didn't want to deal with, then okay, now it's brought to our attention. I mean, all of that is there. The real and the best answer to that, though, there are two best answers. The first one is to simply not worry about it, not be looking for conditionalities. Don't worry about those things, because the things that you fear, you draw near. The better solution, basically, though, is to have your own, have it come to you, have it come to you directly, and you decide where to send it. Okay. That's a preferable one to me, for one thing. In addition to this, to create a way whereby it comes to you in the opposite of the way it used to be. In the way has tended to be, you got to do this work and then you get this on a basically a one-to-one, a quid pro quo basis. You do this activity, and in a period of time, on some periodicity, maybe it's every 2 weeks, and maybe it's every week. In some cases, it's every day. Sometimes it's every month. I had a job years ago. I got paid once a month, and the transmission on my car. No, it wasn't the transmission went out. It was the cylinder head, that BMW that I had years and years ago. I loved that car, but I cracked the cylinder head on it, and then it got down to fix it. It was like $1,200, and this was well over 20 25 years ago, something like that now. And oh gosh, it was longer than that, way longer than that. Yeah, this was the end of 1970s, and it was $1,200 then to fix or to replace the and repair the cylinder head on my car. And I got paid once a month, and 1 month's pay was about $1,200 at that time. All right. So somehow I managed through it. I managed to get through it. I paid for it. I lived, the 4 weeks. I got through all that stuff before I got another check, on and on and on. These problems come up, they come and they go. And, they get worked out. We will work them out. But there are ways, more efficient ways to bring value in, and I'm talking liquid assets, and having sufficient amounts available now. That doesn't mean, okay, I'm a millionaire, but I've got all this in the bank, and I've got all the rest of this in capital. I got them in houses. I got them in something that I can't convert into liquidity right now. So this particular platform answers all of those questions. And so that's why I'm suggesting, and I'm inviting people to do this, because if you do, if you raise money, if you do things in the way and in the mindset that we have been accustomed to doing, and I'm talking about for many, many, many generations, this system will not work for you. It won't work for anyone who simply does that. However, if you exercise those aspects of yourself that I also suggested as part of us, and I'm talking about the whole I-ness of yourself, This and in addition to that, you inviting, well, part of what this system invites you to do and requires for you to do this is that you simply invite three people to who do the same thing, who are willing to do the same thing that you did, and who also do it with your help. So you join this platform. It's called Co-op. You click on my invitation, and if someone else sent you to this and they were moved by what I'm saying, and they have joined, then please ask them, or they will probably give you, but they will have invited you. Their sponsor ID. This one is geared and connected to mine, but all you need is three people, first of all, to uh, meet step one. Step one is you join, and it costs a minimum, or it costs $20 just to join and be active. Your membership lasts for 28 days. So it's a time delimited membership that is renewable automatically every 28 days on the proviso that there are at least $20 in the balance in your account. And I will go in and at the time, it can be less than that amount, but at the time that your 28-day anniversary comes, it has to be at least $20. Now, it turns out that there are three income stages in this system. So the entry one costs $20. And from there, you can, when you know that this is time delimited to every 28 days, what you basically do is you invite three people within the period of time to do the same thing, and they will put their $20 in, for example, and be connected to you. They also become donors to you. You will be sending funds out to six people. Myself would be one if it's at my invitation, and five others. And then the people that you invite, they will be making their contributions into the system will go to six people: the person that invited them, myself, and those other four. And you can see the progression of how that works. But every time there's a generation, when you got three people, you are now you are making enough from those three that you don't have to put any more funds in. You actually receive the funds right away. Every time someone opens a wallet and gets active, so to speak, uh, you receive. And so when the three do it, you will have received enough, especially in the 28 days, that you got $20. You got more than $20 in already. Now, the next step is this, because that's phase one. That's where you're active and you want to be active. But your next step is you want to be qualified. The qualified is the next step. And all that is that you simply help those who joined to get or assist them in whatever way they need, if they need so, to invite three people who become active as well. So when you got three who are active, who have three who are active, you now have three people plus nine more. And you remember I talked about six levels going. You're giving to six people, starting with the person that invited you, and then moving six levels down. What you are doing essentially every time you're inviting, you're creating six levels, six generations of donors back to you, of givers. We are giver receivers. That's what each of us are. I'm a giver and a receiver. You are a giver and a receiver. We go around thinking that it is better to give than to receive. But excuse me, it is better to give and receive in kind. That's the better solution. Are we thinking of better ways of looking at life? It is better to give and receive in kind. And in fact, it is even better to give and receive in kind, but receive more in kind than you give. That's even better, because that is how we start to actually expand the value, that the transactional value of our own liquid assets that we have available, that we can use any way we want, That's how we build sufficiency, economic sufficiency. And today, you can say the blockchain, you can say the cryptocurrency space, it actually makes it possible for us, for each one of us to do this. Now, the space makes it possible from the standpoint of the value assets. This platform, the co-op platform, makes it possible by the way those assets come to you. They come to you in a flow because you are creating what happens in a trickle. It's fixed. When you get a job, everything is fixed. You work, you get, you work, you get whatever it is, and the drudgery and everything else starts to come up because there's not enough. There, you could say there's simply not enough thanks. It's a thankless situation. It's such a not enough joy because all that wears out in the beginning. And in addition to that, the other issues that are associated with the activity start to, cloud everything. In this co-op and cooperative system, you start off uh, with a trickle, but as more people continue to respond to the ripple effects of your invitation, it's the ripple effects of your invitation. That's a good visual that I can use and add to a presentation because you start something here and it ripples out, and it's an attitude and it's a behavior. It is a wave that expands and keeps going. And the point is, as more people are touched by that positive and expansion of the wave that you're putting out, they will start opening, they will start joining. They'll join and fund. They'll join and fund. But when you have three and your three have three, that means you have actually 12 people. Your first generation is the original three that you invited. Your second generation is the nine. It's the original three that your people invited. So that's nine more, but they are connected to you too. So that means you have 12 people. And then that nine starts putting theirs out. And then that will be 27 more because each of those nine have three. And that 27 then goes with your 12. Now you've got 39. And step by step, up to 6 levels to fill that particular matrix. Now, in the meantime, your income will be repeated every 28 days by each one of these people. That's why you want to ensure you want to succeed and you want to help them succeed, because in helping them succeed, it's by helping them to have the attitude. First of all, you need the willingness to speak, you need the willingness to listen, you need the willingness to present authentically. All right. I'm saying things the way I say things because I see things the way I see things, and I respect and admire people who have a different way of saying it. But I am very very clear that I want to help people realize they have power that I see that most don't realize they have, and they're using that power anyway. However, it is not necessarily producing beneficial results for them. So, if they want to change that, they have to change it. The co op system is not going to change that for you. By you changing your attitude, so to speak, it will change what you get from the co-op system and through the co-op system. I want people to understand that it's their attitude that uh, frames all of their experiences, and it doesn't matter who you are. There's one set of laws that apply to everyone, whether anybody ever gets three, and with three with me or with themselves. It's still we're still working. It's about us, and that's not where something is wrong per se. Maybe the belief in something being wrong is the problem. Okay. We get to a place of just accepting this is what is, for one thing. However, it's not simply willy nilly, accept this is what is. It's realize I'm connected to that. And as I change something within myself, what is will change because I am the whole-I-ness. Okay. So, at any rate, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you one how to join, and it's basically just come up to this button right here, click on it, and then you're going to fill out this information. You're going to find wherever you are, whatever country you are in, so to speak, that you reside in. You'll change that. You'll put your phone number in there, and then you'll put your other information in, your name, it's an email address, what your confirm those things of email address, etc. Decide what your password is going to be, and you click next, and you're ready to roll right on in. Okay. At which point in time it will invite you to activate, and so I will show that too now that I'm in here. So I've got to do this to move into the my site, and it's going to you would be seeing and being invited to activate your co-op 20, because that's where you would start. Since I am active on co-op 20, I'm also active on co-op 28, then all I'm here seeing here is that I should activate my co-op 280. You have the option to activate one, just start here for $20, and uh, you would do that by buying a token. So to activate, and it will prompt you. I'm going to go down here. Well, no, see, I'm not an active on co-op 280. However, the scenario is the same. So if I were going to activate my co-op 280, you do this progressively. You would activate co-op 20 plus co-op 28, then you can activate co-op 280. You can't simply activate co-op 280 by yourself, by itself. But if I clicked on that to activate it, let's see what happens. I'm doing this one more time. I can't do it there. Well, then I'll tell you what, I'm not going to worry about that either. I think it's not that it's telling me this, but this is the feedback I'm getting. Let's see. Let's try this again. And then it says I've lapsed. Ah, well, there you go. System, guys, working this system out somehow. Because at one point I was active in there and I did lapse. And so it wasn't necessarily a point of activating my co-op 280. It was reactivating it. So in order to do that, here is the way you do things now. You can, and this has evolved over time. You can buy one co-op 20 token. You can put whatever number that you can. You just scroll in the number or just dial in the number you want. You can do co-op plus one co-op 28. And remember, if you select one for all of these, you're basically giving yourself 28 days to get your 3 people in those particular tiers. All right. That's all this. That's what this means. When you get a token, it is time in the system to build and maintain, to establish and maintain a minimum value, a minimum balance. And so it's this is what you're doing. So this the Co-op Inc. 20 tokens cost $20 a piece. The Co-op Inc. 28 tokens, they cost $28 a piece. Therefore, it's $48. And then if you get one Co-op Inc. 280, then you're adding $280, and that means it's $328 is what you would do to be fully active in the system for 28 days. And so therefore this $328 amount would be what you would pay into the system every no, I'm saying into the system. You would circulate every 28 days if you have a sufficient balance. If you don't have a sufficient balance in the income pool, then you won't be able to participate. If it's like breaking continuity. If you break continuity, then in a circuit, you have a short. Activity stops, flow stops. And so what you're basically doing is maintaining flow, a minimum flow of either $20 in equivalent USD dollar value, or 48 or 328. Now, the cool thing here is that you can start with just the $20, and by succeeding at having three join and then helping them receive their three, as more join as a part of that ripple effect, your balance will go up. It'll go up beyond $20. It'll go up beyond $48. It'll go up way beyond $328. And therefore, you could, with just $20, get all the way through to where you're active on all three of the crowd stages. And I would talk about the crowd stages themselves. Let's say we'll talk about that tomorrow. I'm going to attempt to get some better visuals. Otherwise, I'll explain things, but I'll see if I can get some better visuals, which I think I can. And the point basically is that you would continue and you would purchase uh, your tokens. It's going to create a system's going to create an invoice with a number. I will already have received an email with this invoice number inviting me to pay this, but I'm not going to pay this. First of all, I'm already active in two of the three, and I'm not going to do the three just yet. However, I am looking forward when you do click on this, when you decide you want to do this, you want to discuss this with me. I suggest that you contact me, give me a friend request through Facebook. Let's do that, and then let's talk. I mean, we can talk directly. You can talk through Facebook Messenger. We can do a direct call. We can do Skype. We can do Zoom. I do all those things. And the point basically then we can decide when you tell me if you're planning on and want to do all three right now, then I will activate my co-op 282 as well so that I can participate. Because if I'm not active in co-op 280 and you are, then have I cannot complete the circuit because I don't have sufficient balance in that particular pool. The system creates pools. Each one of these are independent pools that work as one, a whole I-ness. You get this? You see, there is nothing like this. And that's just a fact. And so I've said it, but this is a system that's really modeled under and from, frankly, reality itself. And so when we replicate this activity, and these parameters, everyone will benefit. This allows the homeless person to not only get a home, you don't have to be given a home. You have enough to design one of your own choosing and liking. There are people that are sitting around deciding they want to give people what they call UBI, Universal Basic Income. Here, someone else is deciding what is enough for you, and ultimately is what can they get away with offering you that will appease you, whether it will be enough to satisfy what your life needs are or not. If that is satisfactory to you, keep on moving. It's not for me. And it's not only not for me, it's not for future me's or future yous. As far as I'm concerned, that's not good enough. But someone must see it first, want to do something different, and take active steps to do so for their own benefit and for the benefit of others too. That's why I do these videos. That's why David Rosen generated or developed this system out of his own pocket. He funded this because he had a heart to do so. This is really cool, and it's really amazing at present where consciousness, human consciousness, typically resides today. That is changing, and there's very few places to go from where we are right now, but up. So I think that's really all I need to say for right now. I'm going to log off of here. I welcome the opportunity to show you more, to talk more with you about it. But I'm going to do that. I want to do that, face to face, eye to eye, in whatever way that works, for all of us, so to speak. But you can do this from anywhere in the world, and that's also something very, very cool. You start thinking about and visualizing the lives that can be changed by this. But ultimately, what are they doing? They're changing their own lives. The platform is only facilitating it. The technology is facilitating it. No one's sitting around talking about where blockchains are going to take over the world. They're going to rule the U.S. If anything, not the U.S., they're going to rule humanity. If anything, they're going to help humanity to take back control and rulership of their own lives. And now more people are able to dole out, so to speak, because why? They have a flow of income coming in. Again, I'm not now going to specify the numbers and everything else because the numbers are immaterial if you're not of the consciousness to do what the system is asking in order to trip it off. You need to be willing to do it, and you need to be willing to do it forever, however long it takes to do it. Some people are saying, only if it happens this time and then it's this, that, and the other. But we have given ourselves so many reasons not to look in the mirror and see ourselves and how we've let ourselves down. So when you can blame someone else, it gives us an out to stay just the way we think right now. New thought, different thought, loving, expansive, prosperous, courageous thought and action is an action that's based on that thought is what's actually needed right now. That's loving, that's joyful, all of those things, which are what will actually change things in the way that we want things to change. A lot of people are talking about things that they want, but when you listen to them talk, there's a somberness, there's an anxiety, there's a concern. Excuse me, that's yesterday's thinking. You're not going to get into the tomorrow that you want by thinking that way. So I love this cooperative system because it won't pay off on that kind of old thinking, but it will pay off amazingly when we actually become normal again. Because the joyful, the courageous, the inspired, that's us too. The distinction is when we do it and when we are those things, when those attributes are part of what we are carrying and radiating, everything changes, and it changes right now. And it's not simply the money, so to speak, part of it. The money is an incidental benefit. Everything else, our health, our happiness, our relationships, our backbone, everything is taken to a more optimal position and state of function. That's what's really we're kind of needing right now, and it's really difficult to acknowledge when you don't have the courage to say no to something that should have been rejected a long time ago. So on the other hand, saying yes to something that should have been embraced a long time ago. Okay? Because we are embraceables ourselves. We are immortal, embraceable beings, loving, capable of changing history, changing futures and past. All of that rests within us. And when we start realizing that and start exercising it, some super things begin to be. All right. So what I'm going to do? It looks like someone said so. Hey, Derek. Oh, I see that you're on there. Uh, Good to see you and hear from you. As you can see here, gosh, I'm on 74 minutes. Says some good things. Okay, about that's the cool thing about doing this. I'm saying other things. Yeah, I want to invite people to join co-op for the reasons that I'm specifying, and they are not about making money. Like I said, making an income, redefining wealth, redefining worth, redefining value is something that we need to do, and redefining respect, extending the respect to ourselves. No one recognize. People are not going to acknowledge when they don't respect themselves, but they might acknowledge. They might call themselves shy. They may talk about self confidence. They might call themselves introverts. We got a whole bunch of words that kind of become, we can get behind, and not actually point out the fact that you can say respect, but you can say self esteem, all kind of things. I mean, I was a wallflower, coming up. I would stand up and there was against the wall, at the dance, and there is the girl that I wanted to talk to and stuff like that. And it's like my feet were rooted right where they were, and I just imagined, etc. Maybe I didn't imagine her being interested in me, being interested in talking to me, and that also masks the idea that we don't think ourselves that interesting, having something interesting to say or to share. Everyone does, and everyone's perspective is unique, but we have to be willing to share it irrespective of, well, what others may think. So I know my intent is what it is, and this has been a good dialogue. It's been a good day, and I will be back tomorrow. I'm going to attempt to produce some graphics. I have been working on that, or intending to do it for sure, but I have been working on that for some time. But I do want to create, there's some animations that I would like to do to kind of visually show how co-op works. And I am not, I'll say that I am not an experienced enough, a skilled enough animator. I feel more stupid than smart. And when I attempt to do it, and that's kind of a consequence of learning anything. When you learn something new, you feel stupid first because you don't see how this all connects and how this all works. I have learned and I have become a competent as a 3D designer to do 3D graphics and modeling and stuff like that. Not in the Blender capacity, but like using Autodesk 360 Fusion. But I've worked at that for like 4 or 5 years, but I'm now competent. And yet in the beginning, I felt pretty stupid oftentimes and frustrated in that feeling. But I wanted to learn how to do this because I wanted the skill itself. And so I stuck with it enough that I am competent enough. I got so much more that I can learn, but I am competent enough that some people have spent about $1 million in the past year, year and a half on our vortex generator products or initiatives, because we're developing certain and some different types of products, doing different kind of work with vortex generators. And because I had the ability not only to explain this in ways that made sense, but I also had the capacity or the competency then to, well, someone said, well, if you can give me some shop drawings, I'll build it. And the guy had the resources and the personnel and the raw materials to make this thing. I can show you pictures of these things. This one thing weighs about 15,000 pounds, but if I didn't have the ability to do the shop drawings, and to order to do that, I had to have the ability to model the whole thing. I could show them how it's made, and how to help someone else make it. Those are the same principles of the co-op system. You have a vision, you take some actions, you establish some things, you move beyond your feelings of stupidity, okay? Because I certainly felt it. There's certain things you're not going to know in the beginning. I'm here to help you. But I went through there and learned it myself. I went through the stupidity portion. It goes away if you keep at it. So, and then from there, when you show others how to do the same thing, now that I created the models and then the drawings, anyone can actually do this thing to build and replicate. In fact, I've designed more of these units, and another one got a different type of unit was made earlier this year, to the point where a guy working with us, he went out looking for help, and I gave him the informational help. And we're talking about, we've spent years together talking about the subject of vortexing and what's possible. And from there, he went out looking for funds. There again, I was able to draw the drawings. We talked about it. We started with schematics. I took the 2D schematics, made 3D images of them. Then I made two shop drawings to make all of the components. We even work with another inventor now who has brought his products together with ours. And so here we are, we're two items that have a benefit, and they're coming together, and the coming together and integration of them actually helps both of them work even better. And so all of that, these are the same principles of this cooperative system that I have been and I am talking about to be used. These are the same principles for building wealth. It doesn't matter what the wealth is. The wealth is a state of mind first. And most people habituate a poverty state of mind, and their actions are basically getting them repeatedly the same experience. We have to expand, and that means getting into an area of unfamiliarity, which I'm calling stupid because you feel that way. But ultimately, it's humility too. I don't know the answer to this, but I am taking positive actions to have the experience. The experience happening is your knowing. You can't intellectualize what I'm talking about. You literally have to do it with your life, so to speak. So that's what I'm talking about. That's what I will be talking about. That's what I'll be inviting you to do, because we want to invite three people. We want to do what I'm with this cooperative system. It doesn't cost much. Anyone that I'm talking to or will be talking to can afford to actually get into it. And from there, invite three people to do the same thing. And each one of us begins to build a flow of income to us. Each one does. Each one does the same activities. Each one has the same criteria, and each has the same result based on what they do, because what you do is not based on how much you have in the tangible. It's about what you employ, that is the intangible. So I invite you all to come back when I'm tomorrow. I'll be here, and we'll continue the conversation. If you got questions, think about them overnight. Come back. I'll be here. I'm doing this to the 22nd from 2 p.m. Pacific time to whenever I stop. Okay. And I had earmarked 90 minutes. And as it turns out, I'm almost there now for today. But, if it's only 10 minutes, I'll do that. Ultimately, this will change the quality of your life, because you're, first of all, changing the quality of your thinking. And I'm not making any judgments of what you're thinking. If you are having the experience of not having enough coming in based on your actions, your habits that you're used to, I am suggesting to you that this entire system that I am talking about and will be talking about is based on a different paradigm, different principle, where all are equal under this system or in this system, and therefore all are asked to do the same thing. And it's not based on the amount of money you have. Again, it's based on the intangibles that you put in, and all of those intangibles would be positive. You will not succeed at anything beneficial in life by being negative and fearful about it. You will succeed in helping the fearful and the negative come along, but that's not really what you want. So if you want something else, you're going to have to be something else. So, and we all have it within us. All right, that's what I got to say for right now. Thank you so much. I'm going to end this live stream for today. Just wishing you peace, prosperity, the best of health. And I'll just say I love you all. Take care.